Disaster in Afghanistan as suicide bombers take aim at American troops and Afghanis trying to leave. We'll talk with Congressman Peter Meijer, who just returned from a controversial trip to Kabul. And with school bells poised to ring and case counts moving higher, the debates rage over masks and vaccines. The leaders of Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb counties will weigh in. Today is Sunday, August 29, 2021, and this is Flashpoint. Hi, and welcome to Flashpoint. We come to you this morning still stung, as so many Americans were, by the horrific events at the Kabul airport on Thursday. There were fears that in those massive and desperate crowds that were swarming the airport, there were opportunities that terrorists would find so compelling and irresistible. And now we begin to acquaint ourselves with ISIS-K, which kind of sounds like the Delta variant of ISIS. For 20 years, Afghanistan has been a festering boil for the U.S., much as it was for the Soviet Union before that. The how of leaving is a matter of much more debate than the question of leaving itself. And the very chaotic evacuation planning and execution is what led two congressmen to make a surprise and controversial trip to Kabul. One of them was Michigan Republican Peter Meijer. And in just a moment, he'll be my first guest this morning to talk about what he saw there and also about the criticism of his trip. And then, with some kids headed back to school tomorrow morning, we're going to talk mask and vaccine policy. We have watched nasty shouting arguments breaking out between parents and administrators. Is this the time for local control, or does that make it impossible for us to really remain cohesive in responding to the pandemic? Warren Evans, Dave Coulter, and Mark Hackel will all join me all today on Flashpoint. Let's start with Afghanistan this morning. Before the suicide bombings of Thursday, a lot of the discussion surrounding the situation at the Kabul airport included a fair amount of criticism for the surprise appearance of two members of Congress who showed up at the airport. Democrat Seth Moulton of Massachusetts and my first guest this morning, Michigan Republican Peter Meijer. Congressman, it is really good to have you back on Flashpoint. Before we get to the nuts and bolts of your trip, I am very curious as to whether what happened on Thursday had you rethinking the wisdom of traveling to such a dangerous situation. Now, you and Seth Moulton are both combat veterans. I don't think you shy away from trouble, but you're also members of Congress with a lot of responsibility to your constituents and to your colleagues.
Yeah, and one of our criteria on there was that we would not detract resources, that we would not have any attention ahead of time. We did not want to raise an already heightened threat profile on that airport by having our presence be known. So our goal was exactly that. I mean, it was so that we could understand the situation firsthand, that we could report it back to the American people and to our colleagues in Washington. We could understand what additional resources were needed and frankly, where we should go from here. While we were on the ground, we had initially assessed and had the opinion that we should be pushing back the August 31st deadline. After discussing that with commanders, we are now both fully supportive of the August 31st deadline. We do not support extending that. This is an impossible position that our forces have been put in because of the reckless withdrawal of the Biden administration. But we have been focusing on doing everything we can to speed up the evacuations of American citizens and loyal Afghan allies, and also ensuring that we learn all of the right lessons from this, that it never happens again.
I have no doubt you learned a ton from the time that you spent there, but you did have to deal with criticism from both sides of the aisle, among your own Republican colleagues as well as those among them House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who doesn't want members making these kinds of trips. How do you deal with that kind of criticism? Everything from the fact that there were some who felt you, of course, had to have taken resources away from others who had to be minding you, to that this was kind of a showboating trip.
Those are pretty empty words coming from, oftentimes some of the harshest criticism from anonymous sources at the White House, State Department, and Department of Defense. And it's no surprise that they don't want us to see what's actually going on. This is an administration that has not been truthful. Now, obviously, there's been criticism from others apart from that as well, mostly because we did not keep a lot of individuals who would have preferred to be in the loop. And while I regret that, that was necessary because of the security around the situation in order to make sure that we were not raising that threat profile. But there's been a lot of mistruths and just frankly deception. I've been surprised by how blatant some of the criticism or just how blatant the lies have been, that we took away seats that could have gone to others. That was not the case. We actually had to speed up our timeline because the Biden administration leaked our visit to the Washington Post, but we still waited until there was empty seats on an aircraft, jump seats that refugees could not have gone in because of where they were located on the aircraft, but that weren't occupying by anyone else. And the extent of what we had on the ground, we spoke for 10 to 15 minutes to a variety of individuals. So that did take a little bit of time out of their day. But apart from that, we had one vehicle and we had an individual who was off duty at the time, a member of a security detail for a general who was there, who insisted that we use that vehicle. So this was not a heavy operation. This was intended to be fast, light, and rapid.
I want to move then to what you saw. You have talked about how impressed you were with the American personnel and what they're facing there, which is absolute chaos, obviously from what we've seen, and then in light of what we saw on Thursday. But you didn't. But you changed your mind on that August 31st date. But I'm wondering if you saw procedures that you think need improvement. There surely had to be some kind of procedural breakdown that led to what happened on Thursday, wasn't there?
I mean, let me be very clear. Every individual we met there is operating at full capacity. They have been run ragged, but they are committed to this mission and they are saving lives. I think the American people should be incredibly proud of the sacrifice and the work that's being done on the ground in Kabul. Make no mistake, they're in an impossible position. This is a mission that they should never have had to undertake. There were ways, if the Biden administration would have heeded our bipartisan calls to speed up the evacuation of our Afghan allies in April and in May, we would not have the crushes at the gate that we saw. But those Marines who gave their lives on Thursday, they were keeping that gate open as long as possible, knowing the risk that it prevented, but to save as many lives as possible, the very definition of selfless service. So this is an impossible position that these men and women have found themselves in, and they are doing everything they can, moving heaven and earth to accomplish, again, an impossible mission that they have been forced to undertake.
We are, in a way, relying on the Taliban to act as partners in this effort. That's a phrase that I can barely believe that I'm uttering, given the last 20 years of history. Do you trust the Taliban to help the United States carry out its mission?
I mean, if you have issues, if you can barely believe that phrase, imagine how just upside down it feels to be a member of the U.S. military who, for the majority of your career, your mission has been hunting down and killing or capturing individuals that you are now sitting across the table from, negotiating, deconflicting operations, and reliant on them for our security. Right? This is not an option between working with the Taliban and not working with the Taliban. Not working with the Taliban means potentially a renewal of open urban warfare and any ability to get individuals into the airport, or frankly, to get our forces out of the airport, would be eliminated. So we are not in a position where we have a choice. This is not an option between good and bad. It's between bad and worse. It is absurd. Again, we should never have been put in this position, but we do not have a time machine, and this is the only option left to us. And it is shameful. It is embarrassing that it's come to this. But again, our forces on the ground are doing just incredible work to make the best of a horrific situation, to save as many lives as possible, and we should all be proud.
It would be the busiest time machine around if we, obviously, given what's happened over these last 20 years. But I'm curious, as someone who has served in combat, and you know the well-worn and well-respected idea that we leave no man behind, right now the pledge seems to be that, of course, we're going to try and get every American that wants to come home out of there. Should that same commitment extend to the Afghanis who helped the United States over its mission over these last 2 decades?
Yeah, we made a promise to those Afghans when they supported us that if this day came, if the day that we are in right now ever came, that we would not leave them behind, and that's a promise we need to fulfill. Now, the reality is that after August 31st, we're going to have to continue to work that through less conventional means, and we need to be laying the groundwork for that right now. There's a tremendous, I mentioned the military effort. There's also a tremendous civilian effort in organizing these rescue missions, getting people into gates, focusing on those manifests and vetting individuals. That has been incredible. Our office has been working closely and has embedded individuals within this broader effort so we can rescue as many people as possible before August 31st. But we need to continue that after August 31st, just without the footprint that we have on the ground now. It's going to require some extraordinary acts and coordination, but we need to fulfill that promise and not leave our vulnerable allies behind.
One last question, Congressman. Among your comments that you've made since returning, you'd like Congress to claim its war powers responsibility. What do you mean by that and why now?
We would not be in the situation we are today if every 2 years for the past 20, Congress had to sit down and cast a deciding vote on whether or not we could believed and were willing to commit the lives of American men and women in furtherance of that mission, right? Force Congress to vote yes or no. If we had been forced to vote on whether or not to send arms and weapons shipments to the Afghan military, if that is a vote that required a majority in the House and a majority in the Senate, we would have asked more questions and we wouldn't have that material falling into the hands of the Taliban today. Congress needs to bring back that scrutiny. It needs to bring back that accountability. We have delegated it for far too long. And frankly, if we don't do that, we will not learn the right lessons and we will not be in a position to ensure that what we have seen over the past several weeks, the horror on Thursday, we need to make sure that never happens again. We owe it to the men and women who serve our country to repeatedly make sure this never happens again.
Congressman Peter Meyer, I'm glad you're back safe and sound and really glad that you had time to spend with us today on Flashpoint. Great to have you here, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you.
You bet. Congressman Peter Meyer, we come back. The 3 county executives from around Metro Detroit on masks and vaccines. This is Flashpoint on Local 4.
For families who choose online learning, the right school is essential. Michigan Online School's team of experienced educators help students succeed in the virtual classroom. We are a statewide tuition-free grades 6 through 12 online public school, where students learn from trusted Michigan certified teachers with daily live online classes. At Michigan Online School, we work closely with students and families to provide the support that drives successful online learning. Enrollment is open. Call 888-808-8144 or visit MichiganOnlineSchool.com today.
Local 4 welcomes Soaring Eagle Arts, Beats, and Eats, presented by Flagstar Bank, Labor Day weekend in downtown Royal Oak. Enjoy the Beaumont Health Fine Art Fair, food from 60 restaurants, and concerts from Stone Temple Pilots, Rise Against, Justin Moore, Neon Trees, The Guess Who, Bobby Brown, Starship, and more on the Michigan Lottery stage. Plus, fun for the family. Admission is $5 before 3, $10 after, and is shared with 50 local nonprofits. Sponsored by these fine corporations.
The Local 4 defenders expose wrongdoing and fight for the truth.
Sean Lay has made a career out of asking the tough questions and never letting go until he gets the answers. Now, as a defender, he's out there every day fighting for what's right.
Karen Drew is a pro. She digs deep and cares so much about getting it right.
In times like this, investigative reporting
has never been so important.
Welcome back. School bells ring for some students tomorrow. Others will return a week from tomorrow after the Labor Day holiday. It happens with COVID cases on the worrisome rise and arguments over mask policies now at a full roar. Oakland County announced masks will be mandatory in schools. And then on Friday, Wayne County followed suit. Macomb County resisting such a mandate. Let's talk about it with the leaders of the 3 counties. Very good to have with us today Wayne County Executive Warren Evans, Dave Coulters, the Oakland County Executive, and Mark Hackle, the executive from Macomb County. And Mark Hackle, I'd like to start with you as sort of, I guess, in a way, the odd man out right now. You talked this past week about wanting others to be able to make the choice, but some kind of I heard some criticism of you that you seem to want the decision on masks either kicked upstairs to the governor or kicked downstairs to the local districts, the suggestion being that you didn't want to make the decision. Is that any kind of an accurate read?
I think that's completely untrue, Devin. And I don't know where you heard that from or you just made that up. But the reality is I've never said that the governor should be making this decision. And I fully support the governor in stating that this needs to be a local school district decision. And of the 21 districts here in Macomb County, they have all come up with a decision. They've worked with our health department since the onset of this COVID crisis, and even throughout this, and every one of them has a mask policy or a mask plan in place. They didn't ask me to make any decision for them. They're all very comfortable with the decision they've made. And some of them, it's going to be a full mask policy, but the other ones did something that's, I guess, if you will, using the word novel. They're using the kids as well as the parents to participate in the decision-making process, which is something we tend to omit. We tend to want to, I guess, if you will, make decisions for them, mandate, as opposed to allow them to participate in this. So credit to the schools here in Macomb County for not having to have me make that decision on their behalf, or the governor of the state of Michigan.
You know, Mark, it's interesting, though. I think we almost all respect the idea of local control, and yet can we all be in this together, given that we mingle in places other than when we're at school? I mean, in the communities, we don't have borders, obviously, between our counties. Would it help, Mark, if we were all doing the same thing, or is that not the way to go about this?
Well, I guess the question would be, let's talk about the Semcog region. The only two that have done it as a mandate are Wayne and Oakland. And again, I appreciate their efforts. But when we're talking about school districts in Macomb County, the 21 school districts, credit to them. They have mask policies in place. They're going to be working with the parents and the kids in some of the schools and providing incentive for those that do wear masks. And so they didn't have to worry about making it mandatory. But those school boards were given the ability to make that decision. And credit to them, they have done that. And they have not asked us to step in and make that decision on their behalf. You know, I find it interesting. Folks are trying to get us to mandate that, and or the governor, as I mentioned before. Never have I said the governor should make this decision. In fact, I was the one early on that said, you know what, you need the locals to make their decisions. And school boards get elected. It's elected representatives of their districts. They're the ones that are elected to make these type of decisions, and working with those that are the experts. They've done that. They've already made their decision, and they've never asked the county to step in and take away their powers, take away their decision process. And I'm comfortable with the decisions that they've made, knowing that they're going to try to make sure that they're being very cautious with the kids. And some of them, credit to them,
Mark,
they're allowing kids to participate in this decision-making process.
Let me let your contemporaries weigh in here. Warren Evans, you agree or disagree? I guess if you disagree, if you agree with Mark, that would mean you don't like the mandate that Wayne County just put in place on Friday.
I think we started the pandemic looking at the science, and I think we're sticking with the science. The decision to have the mandate is mandated by the increase that we're watching really every day in the positive COVID tests. And so we have public health department, we have public health authorities, and we have public health law. And when it looks like the public health people feel and advise me that to err on the side of caution and to look at a mask mandate, that's the decision I made. I mean, school districts, I'm not arguing about what school districts do, but I don't think they have public health officials. They certainly are talking to us on a regular basis, and we've been giving them guidance for over a year in terms of the amount of positives that they're having in their communities, and giving them advice about what they ought to do to mitigate risk. We just came to the conclusion that this policy makes sense, and we will hopefully not have to have it long. But if you look at some of the headlines throughout the country, we have in the South some school districts where hundreds of kids are now quarantined.
Yeah.
Because of the spread of the virus.
Dave Coulter, let me let you weigh in on your thoughts and thinking on this.
I can tell you that my school boards are relieved that the county stepped in, and the superintendents as well. You know, this is really a pretty simple issue if you don't look at it through a political lens. But school boards are politically elected people. They don't have health departments, and they're not public health experts. Neither am I, by the way, or Warren or Mark. So we rely on the public health experts. And if you look at this issue as a public health issue, I think it's pretty clear. I haven't heard any public health officers in any county in Michigan say that they didn't think that masks were an effective way to help keep kids safe. That's not a controversy at all. The only controversy is in a political sphere. So I think what I hoped we would do in Oakland County is take this out of the politics and let the educators and the teachers get back to what they do best, which is to teach our kids in person. And that's a key aspect of this. Last year, so many of our kids had to do remote learning, and we have learned how difficult and how harmful that was. There's a lot of learning loss. There's a lot of emotional and social stunt that happens there. And so we want to make sure that our kids stay in the classroom. And we think and by and large, our superintendents fully agree that a simple mask requirement until we're back to a moderate transmission rate in Oakland County is the simplest and most effective thing that we can do to keep our kids safe in school.
Mark, to that point, is there a certain level, and right now we have this high transmission level in most parts of the country right now, is there a certain level, Mark, that you're thinking changes, or you prefer to have everybody making their own decision no matter where we are on community spread?
Yeah, our health department has been very clear with the various districts that if there is a concern, if there's an issue, they're all talking about various percentages within their schools if they see that there's a problem. Again, they've been working closely with our health department, and if there is a concern or an issue, they're more than willing to engage or participate. The question becomes when you stop and you think about these recommendations from CDC. One of the, I guess, strongest recommendations is that kid 12 years of age and older be vaccinated. And that becomes the next question.
Yeah.
Do we mandate that? And I don't think anybody has any intention to try to mandate that people get vaccinated. Yet that is the I guess highest level of protection that we could provide for kids. So I would never even consider thinking about going to that direction if we were given an opportunity. And but if the locals, I don't know that they'd be able to make that decision. I don't think that would be one that would be warranted either. So again, we're fortunate here in Macomb County, as David just got through mentioning, our districts here in Macomb County are very comfortable with their decision. And we're going to continue to walk through this and work alongside of them throughout this entire process like we have from 17 months ago. Let's turn a little bit now to include vaccines in the calculations. Warren Evans, Wayne County, we've got a much lower rate, obviously, in the city of Detroit than we want to see. Do you think it's time for any kind of further mandates as far as vaccines go rather than masks, or are you preferring to leave that up to businesses and venues?
Yeah, I think mandating vaccines, at least at this point, is not on the table, and I hope that it never is. I think people have to make their own decisions about this. There are religious concerns and other concerns, and I understand that.
Are you okay with businesses making such a mandate of employees?
Well, private employers, maybe even public employers at some point in time. Driven by the numbers, that's certainly possible if that's what's needed to protect the public's health. But at this point, I'm not even contemplating that issue. You have a big difference in Wayne County. You have about almost approaching 70% vaccination rate outside of the city of Detroit, and a much lower rate in the city. As you know, I'm not responsible for the city, just for the communities outside, and 70% is a pretty good number.
Dave Coulter, I've got just a couple seconds left. Your thoughts on vaccines?
We're at 73% in Oakland County. Our residents did a great job, but I don't think anybody should completely take additional vaccine measures off the table, because we're seeing our private employers, we're seeing our colleges and universities, and one of the reasons is because this pandemic isn't over. The Delta variant is very serious. There could be other variants along the way, and I think there are going to be consequences ultimately for people who don't get vaccinated. Getting vaccinated is still the best protection that you have, and secondly, the thing you can do is masks. It's the two best tools that we have. We ought to be utilizing them so we can get past this pandemic and get back to our regular lives.
Gentlemen, it is always really good to have the three of you together. I so appreciate you arranging your schedules to be with us today. Have a great week. We'll see you hopefully soon on a future edition of the program.
Thanks, Devin.
You bet. Thanks, guys. We'll take a quick break. Back with more in just a moment.
DTE's natural gas is a lot more than just an energy source. It perks up your mornings and eases you into relaxed evenings. It works both hard and smart. It can help heal the body and transport the mind. And at the end of the day, cleaner, safe, affordable natural gas is there to do more than just dry your clothes. It's a warm hug waiting to happen. DTE.
Facts have never been more important than now. They can mean the difference between life and death. Rely on the Trust Index, your first line of defense against disinformation. Just look for the seal. It's true means it passed the test and we can back it up. Not true means it's fake. Don't trust it. And be careful means it's not entirely right or wrong, but could be risky. In the battle against disinformation, no fact is off the table. If it seems suspicious, send it to us and we'll get answers. The Trust Index, only on Local 4 and click on Detroit.
Rhonda truly feels for the stories that we talk about. She truly has a compassion for the people that are here in the city of Detroit.
She cares about Detroit. Every story matters to her.
She truly is a professional.
Day in and day out, she brings her A game.
Rhonda's our moral compass. Imagine where we would be without her.
A true person, true to herself, true to her community, and that just screams at you in a good way, and you feel it whenever you see her on TV.
I think that's why people trust her.
Before we go this morning, a moment with the recently departed Paul Mitchell. The former congressman was a frequent guest of this program and someone I knew long before he ever considered running for the U.S. House. But just before he died, he sat down for a conversation with Jake Tapper of CNN. And while he hailed from the other side of the aisle, his thoughts were very much like those of the late Senator Carl Levin, who passed away this summer. Like Levin, Paul Mitchell lamented the vilification of those with whom we may disagree. And that lack of respect for the other side troubled him deeply, as he said to Jake Tapper.
There's value in people that you may disagree with about something strongly. That doesn't inherently make them a bad person. Learn to understand people and judge less, and love more, and let's have less hatred. It's destroying our society, Jake. Our political process. You see what's going on. Let's rev up the base. Because people are evil. It's destructive, and I just see people just take the time to care about the other person. If you care about them, it's hard to hate them.
Paul passed away shortly after that interview, and our thoughts are with his wife, Sherry, and the entire family. Thanks so much for being here. Meet the Press coming up next. Have a great week. We'll see you next time for Flashpoint.